You always expect the evolution of technology to be this like clean, predictable line, like a ladder, right? You invent the wheel, then you invent the engine, then the car.
Right, yeah, you just assume you leave the old primitive tools behind.
Exactly. You leave them behind once you've engineered the shiny new ones. But when you look at the mechanics of human conflict, that neat little ladder absolutely
But it
shatters.
doesn't just shatter, it completely folds back in on itself.
Yeah.
Like, the progression of military technology is messy, it's chaotic, and it's driven entirely by desperation rather than, logic.
Which is exactly what we are mapping out for you today. Welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive. We know you like to get straight to the point with a clear, engaging pace, so we are jumping right in.
We certainly are. We're looking at an excerpt from a document titled Country Balls, the African Theaters of War, and specifically focusing on Part 19.
Okay, let's unpack this because, I have to admit I'm laughing a little bit on the inside just introducing this, right?
Mm.
Our source text today is fundamentally based on country balls.
Right, yeah, the internet meme format, the one where countries are drawn as little anthropomorphized spheres with flags. They usually make, like, highly specific geopolitical puns.
Exactly. It's an inherently absurd format. But, and this is why we are dedicating this deep dive to it, if you strip away the cartoonish visuals and actually treat Part 19 as a serious tactical document,
Yeah, it gets really dark.
it really does, you uncover a genuinely terrifying evolution of warfare. We are going to track 4 specific conflicts detailed in this text. And we aren't just reading you a scoreboard of who fought whom.
Right, no.
We are tracking a distinct hidden pattern. It's this compounding escalation in military arsenals and a really drastic shift in the mechanics of home field advantage.
Because the tactical landscape in Part 19 changes at just a blistering pace.
Mhm.
And, well, to understand how wild the escalation gets, we have to establish the baseline.
Right.
So the document opens with a clash between Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. The battle takes place in Abidjan, which is the economic capital of Côte d'Ivoire.
Which means Ghana is the invading force here. They've crossed the border, pushed into enemy territory, and the text tells us that Ghana actually wins this battle in Abidjan. So right out of the gate, we are looking at an incredibly difficult military maneuver.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a successful invasion of a major city is arguably the hardest operation a military can undertake. To understand how Ghana pulled it off, we have to look closely at the specific tools they used.
Right, the arsenal.
Yeah. The arsenal deployed in Abidjan consists of guns, snipers, tanks, and bazookas.
Wait, so Ghana rolls into Abidjan with heavy armor and high-powered rifles? My first thought looking at that list is, okay, they just brought the heaviest sledgehammer they could find. They just brute forced their way to a win.
I'd actually argue the exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah, it's less of a sledgehammer and more of a highly calibrated scalpel. The central doctrine tying that specific arsenal together isn't just raw power, it's standoff capability.
Oh, okay.
It's the military concept of keeping the enemy at a lethal distance.
Meaning, like, you are reaching out and touching the enemy before they are close enough to touch you back.
Precisely. Let's break down the mechanics there. A sniper rifle's entire function is to remove the soldier from the immediate danger zone while still projecting lethal force, right?
Right. Precise and calculated.
And deeply impersonal. Then you pair that extreme precision with overwhelming mechanized armor. You have tanks providing mobile cover, which allows your infantry to advance without taking small arms fire.
And the bazookas. Because, when I think of a bazooka, I just think of massive, chaotic collateral damage.
Well, in this context, a bazooka is primarily an anti-armor and breaching weapon. So if Ghana's infantry encounters a fortified machine gun nest or like a reinforced concrete wall in Abidjan, they don't want to waste manpower charging it.
Oh, I see. They just use the bazooka to punch a hole in the defense from 50 yards away.
Exactly. They're busting down the door from the safety of the front lawn.
Which perfectly sets up my analogy here. It's like the opening moves of a chess match, And it explains a crucial anomaly right out of the gate that we need to highlight for you. Out of all the 4 conflicts detailed in Part 19, this is the only battle where the invading force wins on the opponent's turf.
Yeah, the only one.
Ghana goes to Abidjan and pulls off a surgical away game victory. And they do it because they engineered a sterile perimeter. They didn't get bogged down in hand-to-hand mud wrestling. They used spokes and heavy shells to dismantle Côte d'Ivoire from a safe distance.
It really sets our baseline for Part 19. It tells us that this era of warfare begins with conflicts that rely on line of sight, maintaining operational distance, and superior mechanized engineering.
But, maintaining a sterile perimeter only works if the enemy actually stays at a distance. What happens when the blitzkrieg stalls out?
Right, when the momentum shifts.
Exactly. What happens to the tactical landscape when the momentum violently shifts from an offensive invasion to a desperate, entrenched home turf defense?
Well, the source material forces that shift immediately with the Second War. This time it's Cameroon versus Congo, and the battle takes place in Yaoundé, the capital of Cameroon.
Okay, so Congo is invading, but this time the home team holds the line. Cameroon wins the Battle of Yaoundé.
And to achieve that home turf victory, the arsenal undergoes a massive diversification. The weapons list for Yaoundé keeps the baseline we just discussed, the guns, tanks, bazookas, and snipers. But it adds two completely new elements.
What are they?
Airplanes and shotguns.
Wait, I'm looking at this logistically and it sounds like an absolute nightmare. You are deploying high-altitude airplanes doing strafing runs at hundreds of miles an hour in the exact same physical space where your infantry is using shotguns.
I know it sounds chaotic.
How do you coordinate that without just obliterating your own troops with friendly fire?
What's fascinating here is how this apparent contradiction actually reveals a highly sophisticated military doctrine. It's known as combined arms theory. Cameroon didn't just escalate the violence, they expanded the dimensional geometry of the battlefield.
Okay, break that down for me. How does adding a shotgun and a plane expand the geometry?
Let's start with the airplanes. Bringing in aerospace assets means the war is no longer confined to the two-dimensional plane of the Earth. Cameroon is seeking vertical dominance.
Right.
They are using planes for high-altitude reconnaissance, spotting Congo's troop movements miles before they reach the city. And they're executing bombing runs to break up supply lines. They are pushing the ceiling of the conflict as high into the stratosphere as the technology allows.
Yeah, but a plane can't hold a city street. Like a plane can bomb a building, but it can't clear the basement.
Exactly, and that is where the shotgun comes in. If a sniper rifle is a weapon of extreme distance, a shotgun is a weapon of extreme proximity.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You do not issue shotguns to soldiers fighting in an open field. The spread, the buckshot, is designed for claustrophobic environments.
It's designed for when you kick down a door and you have, like, a fraction of a second to neutralize a threat in a 12 by 12 concrete room.
Which paints a very vivid picture of what fighting in Yaoundé actually looked like. Congo's invading forces must have survived the aerial bombardment and breached the city limits. The fighting moved off the open plains and bled into the streets.
It became a grueling, three-dimensional urban pacification effort.
Yeah.
So the combination of the plane and the shotgun isn't a contradiction. It's a terrifying synergy. The airplane acts almost like a sheepdog, right? It bombs the open areas, forcing the invading forces to seek cover inside the buildings.
Right, it hurts it.
And once the enemy is pinned down inside those tight claustrophobic structures, your infantry moves in with shotguns to clear the rooms.
You are segregating the battlefield. The war expanded vertically into the clouds, but it also shrank horizontally down to the size of a hallway. Cameroon won because they mastered both extremes simultaneously.
But dominating the airspace and the hallways still leaves a massive tactical vulnerability. You can clear every building in the city, but if the invading army can just continuously march fresh boots across your borders, you're eventually going to lose the war through sheer attrition.
Yeah.
Cameroon's strategy leaves the actual ground wide open.
Which brings us to the third conflict, where the defending force realizes they have to control the very earth the soldiers are walking on. We move to Angola versus Namibia, and the battle takes place in Mavinga, Angola.
Another home turf defense. So Namibia invades, but Angola holds Mavinga and wins.
And the arsenal compounds yet again. We have all the previous weapons, guns, tanks, bazookas, shotguns, snipers, and airplanes.
Yeah.
But now the text explicitly adds grenades and mines.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I'm looking at this specific combination, and it feels like we are building a trap. It's like a massive hydraulic press.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. You have airplanes above, which bypass ground obstacles entirely. And now you have ground-level mines, which are designed to punish anyone who touches the dirt. It's total area denial.
It is the ultimate manifestation of area denial. Angola isn't just trying to shoot the Namibian soldiers. They are turning the geography of Mavinga into a hostile entity. And the physical and psychological mechanism of a minefield is crucial to understand here.
Because a mine isn't really about killing an entire army, is it?
No, not at all. It's about stripping away momentum. Think about a convoy of Namibian armored vehicles and infantry moving toward Mavinga. The lead vehicle hits a hidden mine. The track is blown off, the vehicle is disabled.
And instantly, the entire convoy has to slam on the brakes. You can't just drive around it because you have no idea where the next mine is. The forward march just completely halts.
And when an invading army halts in hostile territory, they become a static target. The engineers have to carefully crawl forward to sweep the dirt inch by inch to find the rest of the explosives. And while that entire Namibian convoy is bottlenecked, terrified to take a single step off the paved road.
That is exactly when the Angolan airplanes strike.
Exactly.
You use the invisible threat beneath the dirt to pin the enemy in place, making them sitting ducks for the highly visible threat raining down from the sky. The infantry is just getting crushed in the middle of that hydraulic press.
And the addition of grenades to this specific arsenal tells us what happens to the infantry that manages to survive the press. If a shotgun is for clearing a room you can see into, a fragmentation grenade is for clearing a blind corner.
Oh, right.
You throw an explosive into a trench or a bunker to neutralize the threat before you even expose yourself. It's a highly volatile phase of the war.
It shows how deeply desperate the environment has become. The surgical, calculated away game victory that Ghana pulled off in Abidjan at the very beginning, that is completely gone. We are now in a phase of Part 19 that is defined by desperate, explosive chaos. Angola permanently scarred their own territory just to ensure Namibia couldn't traverse it.
You can see the pattern compounding for the defending nations. Every time a country protects its home turf, the arsenal doesn't just get heavier, it infects a new layer of reality.
Yeah, first it was distance, then it was the airspace and the indoors, and now it is the subterranean dirt itself.
Which naturally leads to the ultimate question. If you have already turned the sky into a bombing range, the streets into a shotgun alley, and the dirt into a lethal explosive trap, what happens when an invading force absorbs all of that punishment and still keeps coming?
What does an arms race look like when it hits a mathematical limit?
The source material answers that with the fourth and final culminating battle of Part 19, South Africa versus Swaziland. The conflict takes place in Pretoria, the administrative capital of South Africa.
So Swaziland is pushing incredibly deep into the heart of the nation. But South Africa, the home team, mounts a defense and wins.
And the arsenal deployed in Pretoria hits its absolute peak. The text lists 9 distinct weapon types, layering everything we've seen so far. Guns, snipers, bazookas, mines, shotguns, grenades, tanks, airplanes.
It is the absolute pinnacle of destructive engineering. You have multi-million-dollar aerospace technology dominating the clouds, heavy mechanized armor tearing up the asphalt, invisible explosives rendering the outskirts impassable.
But there is a 9th weapon listed alongside all of that advanced technology.
Right, knives.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the paradox of Pretoria is staggering. Right in the middle of this high-tech, mechanized, explosive symphony of modern warfare, the text explicitly tells us that soldiers are using knives.
My initial assumption here is that the technology just failed. Like, the logistics completely collapsed, the tanks broke down, the soldiers ran out of bullets, and they had to resort to scavenging for kitchen knives in the rubble just to stay alive.
It's a logical assumption. But it's not about the technology breaking down. It's about the collapse of the operational theater itself. Remember the concept of standoff distance we discussed at the very beginning with Ghana?
Right. The sniper rifle keeps the enemy a mile away. The tank keeps them across a field. Even the shotgun keeps them across the room.
Exactly. Every single technological advancement we've tracked so far, the planes, the bazookas, the mines, is designed to keep the enemy from touching you. But a knife means the standoff distance is 0.
Wow. A knife means the Swaziland forces didn't stop. They pushed through the aerial bombardments, they slowly navigated the minefields, they survived the bazookas and the shotgun blasts in the hallways, and they closed the distance completely. They got right on top of the South African defenders.
It means that despite the millions of dollars in hardware operating overhead, the fight in Pretoria ultimately devolved into the most primal, intimate form of human violence imaginable.
It is a chilling realization. You have soldiers physically wrestling each other in the mud or in the ruined, claustrophobic hallways of the Capitol using a $5 piece of sharpened steel, the oldest tool of violence humans have ever created. All while fighter jets are simultaneously breaking the sound barrier above them.
It strips away all the illusions we hold about modern warfare. We started this deep dive talking about a ladder of technology, the comforting idea that new, advanced tools replace the old, primitive ones. But the Battle of Pretoria proves that theory entirely wrong.
The airplanes didn't replace the knives.
No, they didn't.
Uh-huh.
They existed simultaneously in the exact same space. The technology didn't clean up the battlefield, it just created a hyper-lethal environment where every single tool, from a laser-guided bomb to a sharpened blade, was desperately needed all at once.
Yeah.
You cannot hold ground with an airplane. You can only hold ground with a person standing on it. And if two people want to stand on the exact same piece of ground, eventually the technology gives way to muscle and steel.
So what does this all mean? Let's trace this incredible journey for you one more time. We started with the first conflict in Abjan, a clean, mechanized away victory by Ghana. They used distance and armor to surgically dismantle their opponent. It was calculated.
But then the paradigm shifted. The Blitzkriegs met entrenched resistance. Cameroon defended Yaoundé by expanding the war vertically to the skies with planes and shrinking it horizontally to the hallways with shotguns.
Then Angola defended Mavinga by locking down the very earth with mines, creating that brutal hydraulic press of area denial that crushed the advancing infantry.
And finally, the escalation spiraled into the absolute paradox of Pretoria. South Africa threw every single piece of modern technology at Swaziland, and yet the invading force still closed the gap. The technological arms race peaked, only to instantly devolve back into a desperate primal knife fight amidst the rubble.
Which leaves us with a rather profound question to consider regarding the future of this text. We've watched the arsenals in Part 19 compound and layer until soldiers are literally calling in airstrikes while engaging in hand-to-hand combat. The pressure cooker has reached its absolute maximum capacity. The standoff distance is 0.
This raises an important question for you to mull over. If Part 19 ends at this extreme paradoxical limit, what could possibly be left for Part 20?
Right, where do you go from here? Does the technology somehow continue to advance into uncharted territory? Do they invent new ways to completely remove the human soldier from the act of war, creating a sterile battlefield fought entirely by machines?
Or does the absolute devastation of Pretoria signal a total societal collapse? Does the sheer economic cost and physical chaos force the combatants to strip their arsenals all the way back down? Do they abandon the planes and tanks entirely until nothing is left but the blades?
When you look back at that clean, predictable ladder of progress we imagined at the start, it really makes you wonder if the next step is up, or if the rungs have finally just snapped beneath our weight. Until next time, keep diving deep.